Hey guys, Ivan here, and in today's video we're gonna do something fun. We're gonna take a look at a scorecard of the 2024 Prague Pro, and also we're gonna take a look at the reactions of the winners and losers of this show, mainly Chris Bumstead and Martin Fitzwater. So as you guys know, Martin ended up winning this show by the surprise of many. Most of us, I would say, thought Chris was winning this after the pre-judging. That's at least what the voting polls are saying and the comments everywhere. It did look like that to me as well. Chris was more conditioned, more detailed, had a prettier look, better structure and so on, but Martin was bigger. Even though Chris ended up in second, it was still an amazing show, one of the more exciting shows of the year, if not the most exciting one even. So it was a great show, it didn't disappoint, it was awesome to watch it, to think who's gonna win, to try to figure out what's gonna happen here. And as you guys know, what happened at this show was Chris was dead in the center the whole time during the pre-judging, and that's not a rule. It doesn't have to mean that the guy in the center is always winning the show, but it does in like 99% of the cases. However, this time around, this wasn't the case. Martin did improve significantly for the finals, but if you thought that he was losing at the pre-judging, you were wrong. I thought that and I was wrong. Martin was a very convincing first spot. He had a perfect score. 3 points in the pre-judging and at the finals. And Chris was very firmly the second, both at the pre-judging and at the finals. So nothing changed really. Even though Martin improved significantly, it didn't matter. He could have showed up same, maybe even if he came worse, a little bit worse, it seems like he would have still won this show. It was apparently as simple as Martin was bigger. And this is open bodybuilding. You have to be big to win open shows, especially if you have somebody who is fourth at a Mr. Olympia in the open. I mean, Chris still managed to beat a bunch of really good open guys, but none of them are top 10 Olympians in the open. And Martin is, again, top 4 Olympian in the open. And obviously he was much bigger, much fuller, much rounder. Martin is like 30-40 pounds over his classic weight cap, and Chris was only like 6 to 8 pounds over his weight cap in classic. So pound for pound, obviously Martin was a lot bigger, and that was sufficient for him to win this show. Now, an interesting question would be, why would the judges leave Chris Bumstead in the center the whole time at the pre-judging? I guess just for the show, just for the entertainment purposes. Because he is Chris Bumstead, he is the most popular bodybuilder in the world. They simply wanted to make this show more entertaining, to make us think that Chris might win this show, even though there really was no chance of him doing that. Unless Martin was horribly off, Chris really didn't stand a chance here. The only reason why they placed him in second was to kind of confuse us, to deceive us, to make us think that he's gonna potentially win this show. Now, I believe that only the head judge is in charge of positioning the guys, so even if he keeps Chris Bumstead in the middle the whole time, and maybe he thinks that Chris should win and gives him the first spot, the other judges can give him second or third or 10th, whatever. It doesn't matter where he stands, but you know, usually the head judge has a lot of influence, I believe, on the other judges. So if he thinks Chris is winning and he's putting him in the center and he's giving him the first spot, all the judges are talking, so there is a big chance that a lot of other judges are going to give him the first spot. But yeah, Martin won with a perfect score, and I'm pretty sure Steve Weinberger also gave Cbum the second spot at the pre-judging. He just left him there to make it more entertaining. You know, it's kind of, I mean, it was awesome to do it. I guess it was the right thing, but it's deceiving, really. Like, even though they have the right to do that, and it's not a rule that the guy in the center is winning, they still made us think something that it's not true, right? We all thought because of that Chris was winning. And they do that basically every time. You know, every time the guy is winning the show, they put him in the center. So that's the case at like 99% of the shows. So I don't know what to think about that, really. I mean, it was awesome. It made a lot of hype. It made a lot of entertaining videos. But in the end, it was, in fact, deceiving. Let's be real here. Now, as far as the scorecard, once again, It was a perfect score for Martin to win and perfect score for Chris to place second, but the only thing that was questionable was a fourth and fifth spot. So I highlighted those two in green, and Matthias Hollweg, the guy from Germany who placed fourth here, he was actually losing at the prejudging, and Horse MD was winning. And then that shifted at the finals, and I don't know how it works. I guess the finals matter more, or it's the head judge who is deciding who's gonna win in the end. I'm not sure how it works, but it was a tie, basically, and I think it is the head judge who decided that Matthias Hollweg is supposed to place fourth here. And Matthias Hollweg is also a former classic bodybuilder, but he had an off season, he actually put on more muscle, and he actually looked amazing at this show. So that was the only questionable thing here. There was no question of who's gonna win this show. It was very clear from the beginning, surprisingly. Now, you guys know that Chris Bumstead and Martin Fitzwater were very friendly prior to this show. They were training together, they had fun on Instagram posts and so on, but after this show, I'm not really seeing anything, at least on social media, and based on Chris's face here, it kind of seemed like he wasn't exactly happy with the second spot here, because I guess he was also deceived by the judges. I guess he also believed that he was going to win this show until the finals, until the awards. So I don't know what the relationship is going to be like after this, but there is also a question of what Chris might do next. Is he going to compete ever again or not? How much did he enjoy this show, doing the Open, and how he feels after, well, losing the show? Or is he actually the winner? I mean, placing second in this show is also a great success. Well, again, he made a post in which he says, arguably the most fun I have ever had on stage. My heart is so full of love right now. I wasn't sure what I wanted to feel doing this show, so life decided to show me. It truly reminded me why I love this sport so much. The nerves getting on stage, not in any expectation to win, but from the unknown of what's to come and the deep desire to show up at my best. The decision to do something for myself, to challenge myself in a new unknown area, knowing the odds are stacked against me. Enjoying the effort of the journey rather than seeking the result. The standards you set in life are meant to be your own. Living by them is a conscious daily decision. Well, very philosophical, I guess, motivating, maybe, if you understand what he's saying. He says, thank you to everyone who came to this show. The energy was nothing I have ever experienced. You're amazing, Prague. And thank you, as Prague Pro. You put on an incredible show, high production, organized, just top notch. Well, he didn't really say much. You know, all he said is basically that he enjoyed this show. He never really spoke about the result. I don't know how he feels about the result. I mean, based on his face, based on his look after placing second, I don't think he was super happy about it. I don't think he was thrilled. But I guess we're going to hear more about it in the future. He also made this post, and it's just the most muscular shot where he says, I gotta admit, hitting most muscular is pretty damn fun. Now, during the live stream, for some reason, the audio was cut off during the Chris Bumstead speech, but RX Muscle quoted him, and on the stage he said, this show was truly meant to be the last, and it's still going to be the last, I'm sad to say. This show was for the love of the sport. It was my honor to compete against the champions. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Or is it? I don't know. For now, it is. But this doesn't mean that it's impossible for him to change his mind. I mean, Mr. Olympia was meant to be his last show, I guess. And then he decided to, get out of retirement and do another show, this open show. So who the hell knows? Maybe like next year or in a couple of years, he decides to do another open show. You never know. Do you guys think he would feel otherwise if he won this show? If he won the Prague Pro, would he make an announcement that he was going to do the Open Olympia? Well, I guess we'll never find out. And we might never find out what he would actually look like in the Open Olympia after focusing on it for an entire year. That's something we might never find out. Or we might. But that's something we're going to speculate on for ages, I guess, unless he does it next year or in a couple of years. Now, as far as Martin Fitzwater, there are a couple of things that are interesting about him. And based on what RX Muscle is also saying, Chris Bumstead cut his speech short and he let Martin hit a couple of poses, which I think was very respectful from Chris Bumstead, very humble. That's Chris. You can't expect anything less from him. And they're also saying that the crowd started chanting Martin, Martin, Martin at the end of Chris's speech. So there is that as well. The crowd was also respectful towards Martin because this was his moment in the end. He won this show. It's not Chris who won. Yeah, that second spot, very close second spot in my opinion, was crazy. Amazing achievement from Chris. It's still Martin who is the winner of this show. Now, did he make any posts? Did he talk about Chris or how he felt? Well, we got a couple of things, couple of very interesting things I gotta say. The first one is this. It's just a photo of him and he says, "Can't be Phil Heath 2.0 without being Mr. Sunday Night." And it's true, for sure, he was so much better at the finals on Sunday. But that didn't really make a change at this show. Again, he could have been probably worse and still would have won this show. But yeah, he truly peaked for the finals and that's something Phil Heath was known for. And Martin is a huge fan of Phil Heath and people are also comparing him to Phil Heath. They're calling him the White Phil Heath. And yeah, I can definitely see the resemblance, like in muscle fullness, in muscle bellies, the shape of them, like the 3D that he has, the plastic clean look. He does remind me of Phil Heath, like in his early days, like let's say 2011, 2010, like especially in the side tricep, I would say. So Martin seems very confident now that he won, but I'm sure he was not expecting this win, especially after the prejudging and what happened. His reaction tells everything. He fell on his knees. He was so happy that he won. He was probably so afraid that he might lose this show, and if he lost this show, that would it would ruin his stock, right? You know, losing to a classic bodybuilder. Yeah, I know, 6-time Olympia champion, but still a classic bodybuilder. But no, that didn't happen. They went for an open guy, for a bigger guy. They basically told the world that for bodybuilding, for open bodybuilding, you gotta be freaking big. But again, we were all deceived at the prejudging. Check out Sean Clarida's reaction right here when they actually called Chris Bumstead's name for that second spot. Nobody thought this was gonna happen, not even Sean Clarida. Look at him. He's like, wow, what happened? What happened is the judges simply went for the size, no matter what. And one of the reasons why Martin was off at the prejudging, it's not only that he lost confidence because he wasn't in the center, it's not only that he got nervous and he was sweating because of that. Something actually happened to him, something nobody really knew about until it was all over. What was that? Well, let me show you.
You came back, you came improved. What happened last night that not everyone knows about?
About the second round of posing, man, so the transition from the rear double to the rear lat spread, when I locked my hamstring down, we popped a couple fibers. I had some major pain, a little cortisol drop, and that's why I started sweating. So we knew I got frustrated, I let it get in my head, and you can clearly see it in the videos that I just was mentally shook. My team sat me down, told me to get my head out of my ass and make sure that we win this thing, and that's exactly what we did. So we got better, we improved, we changed some posing to be able to work around it, and we finished the job just like we were supposed to.
All right, that was crazy, man. He actually had a hamstring tear or an adductor tear during the posing. That's how aggressive these guys are posing. That's how difficult posing on the stage actually is, especially when you're dehydrated. If you're going through a couple of rounds of posing, I remember from my shows, like I'd be sore for like 5 days after the show, like especially in the hamstrings, in the calves usually. Like, yeah, it can be very, very difficult. You know, it's not easy to pose on stage. People are saying that bodybuilding is not a sport. And yeah, sure, you can say that it's not a sport, but like on the stage, you're actually performing. It's not just standing there and showing what you got. You're actually fighting. You know, training part is definitely a sport, but even standing on the stage, you're not just standing there. You're actually fighting, you're posing. It's very difficult, it's very hard. And if you're not in shape to pose hard, to have the stamina, to have the endurance, you're gonna lose the show. So even that part is performance. So bodybuilding is not just a pageant, it's actually a sport. Like on the stage, you need to be ready, you need to be prepared, you need to be able to pose super hard. And it's actually so hard that you can even injure yourself on stage. If you guys didn't know that, now you know, and now you may rethink your stance on whether bodybuilding is a sport or not. Anyways, Martin managed to pull it off, to switch his posing around, to stay calm, to stay confident, especially for the finals. Again, even if he didn't, it probably wouldn't change much, but this kind of showed us that Martin is definitely a professional. This was definitely a huge sign of maturity as an athlete. He did a great job. He ended up winning this show. And Chris Bumstead showed that if he wanted to, if he was willing to put on some more muscle, he would definitely be very, very competitive on the Open Olympia as well. And that's gonna do it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this about bodybuilding, guys, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. All the best and bye-bye.